Zara stared at the broken engine of her ship with growing frustration. The quantum drive had failed 3 days ago, while she traveled through this remote sector of space. Now she was trapped on Mining Station Beta 7, a small human outpost that floated between two dead planets. The Zephyrian woman stood nearly 7 feet tall with blue-scaled skin that shimmered under the station's artificial lights. Her silver eyes reflected no emotion as she examined the damaged components. Among her people, showing feelings was considered a weakness. They prided themselves on pure logic and cold reasoning. "Excuse me, miss, are you the owner of the ship?" In Dock 3, Zara turned to see a human male approaching her. He wore the standard uniform of a station engineer with grease stains on his sleeves. His brown hair was messy, and his face showed the tiredness that came from long work shifts. "I am Captain Zara of the vessel Starwind," she replied in her formal tone. "You must be the repair technician." The human smiled, which caused small lines to appear around his eyes. "Name's Jake. I've been looking at your engine problem. It's pretty serious, but not impossible to fix." Zara studied him carefully. Most humans she had encountered were either afraid of her species or tried to impress her with false bravery. This one seemed different. He looked at her directly without fear, but also without the aggressive posturing she often faced. "How long will repairs take?" she asked. Jake scratched his head while thinking. "Hard to say. The quantum matrix is completely fried. I'll need to rebuild it from scratch using compatible parts. Could take anywhere from 2 weeks to a month." A month? Zara's voice remained level, but inside she felt panic. Her people expected her back on Zephyr Prime within 10 days. Being late would mark her as unreliable, which could cost her the captain's commission she had worked years to earn. "I know it's not what you want to hear," Jake said gently, "but rushing the job could make things worse. Quantum drives are tricky. One wrong connection and the whole ship could implode." Zara closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Logic told her the human was right. Emotional reactions would not change the situation. She had to accept the delay and find a way to deal with the consequences. "Very well. Begin the repairs immediately. I will pay standard rates plus 20% bonus if you complete the work in less than 3 weeks." Jake's eyebrows rose. "That's generous, but I can't promise miracles. I am not asking for miracles. I am asking for efficiency." Over the next few days, Zara found herself spending more time in the repair bay than necessary. She told herself it was to monitor Jake's progress, but truthfully, she was curious about human work methods. Her people used advanced tools and automated systems for everything. Watching Jake repair her engine with basic hand tools was fascinating. "Why do you not use mechanical assistants?" she asked while observing him replace a damaged circuit board. "Can't afford them," Jake replied without looking up from his work. "This station operates on a tight budget. We make do with what we have. That seems inefficient." Jake paused and looked at her. "Maybe. But there's something satisfying about fixing things with your own hands. Makes you understand how everything connects." Zara tilted her head, a gesture her species made when processing new information. "You find pleasure in manual labor. I find purpose in it," Jake corrected. "When someone's ship breaks down in the middle of nowhere, they're counting on people like me to get them home safe." The concept of finding purpose in helping strangers puzzled Zara. Zephyrians only aided others when it provided clear benefit to themselves. Altruism was seen as illogical waste of resources. "But what do you gain from helping me?" she pressed. Jake smiled again. "The satisfaction of a job well done. Plus, you seem like decent company." That evening, Zara sat alone in her assigned quarters thinking about the day's conversation. The human's words challenged everything she had been taught about efficient living. Her people measured success by personal advancement and resource acquisition. They formed relationships based on mutual benefit and terminated them when no longer useful. Yet Jake seemed genuinely happy helping her despite receiving only standard payment. He worked long hours to repair her ship and treated her with kindness that served no logical purpose. It was inefficient and wasteful according to Zephyrian philosophy, but somehow appealing. The next morning, Zara returned to the repair bay earlier than usual. Jake was already there, drinking something from a steaming cup while studying technical diagrams. You start work very early, she observed. Couldn't sleep, Jake admitted. Been thinking about your engine problem. I might have found a way to speed up the repairs. He showed her a modified circuit design that would bypass the most damaged components. The solution was clever and would save several days of work. This is acceptable, Zara said, though inside she felt something that might have been gratitude. Great. I should be able to start implementing it today. Jake gathered his tools and headed toward her ship. Zara followed, watching as he crawled into the narrow engine compartment. His dedication impressed her. Most repair technicians she had dealt with did the minimum required work. Jake seemed determined to exceed expectations. Why do you work so hard for someone you barely know? She asked. Jake's voice echoed from inside the engine housing. My dad always said if something's worth doing, it's worth doing right. Besides, you're stuck here until I finish. Might as well make your stay as short as possible. Zara found herself smiling slightly at his response. The expression felt strange on her face. Zephyrians rarely smiled except when displaying superiority over defeated opponents. As Jake continued working, Zara realized she was beginning to understand why humans formed emotional bonds with each other. Their capacity for kindness toward strangers created connections that went beyond logical benefit. It was inefficient by her people's standards, but it produced something her cold and logical society lacked. She was beginning to appreciate the warmth of human companionship. By the end of the first week, Zara had established a routine that puzzled even herself. Each morning she would visit the repair bay to check on Jake's progress. Each afternoon she would return with questions about human customs and culture. Each evening she would find reasons to extend their conversations. Jake seemed equally interested in learning about her people. He asked about Zephyrian technology, their homeworld, and their social structures. His questions were intelligent and showed genuine curiosity rather than mere politeness. So your people don't have families like we do? Jake asked while calibrating a quantum resonator. We have genetic lineages, Zara explained. Individuals are assigned to breeding pairs based on optimal DNA combinations. Offspring are raised in communal facilities by trained specialists. Jake paused in his work. That sounds lonely. It is efficient. Children receive proper education and training without the bias that comes from parental attachment. But what about love? Jake asked softly. The question made Zara uncomfortable. Love is an inefficient emotional response that clouds judgment. My people eliminated such weaknesses centuries ago. I don't think love is a weakness, Jake said, looking directly at her. It's what makes life worth living. Zara felt her dual heart skip a beat at the intensity in his brown eyes. You speak of love as if it were essential for survival. Maybe not for survival, but definitely for happiness. Jake returned to his work but continued talking. My parents loved each other for 40 years before my dad passed. My sister Amy loves her kids so much she'd do anything to protect them. That kind of connection gives meaning to everything else. And you? Zara asked before she could stop herself. Do you love someone? Jake was quiet for a long moment. I thought I did once. A woman named Carol. But she couldn't handle me being away on assignment so much. Turns out what I thought was love was just loneliness. Zara sensed pain in his voice. Among her people, emotional hurt was treated as a medical condition to be cured with chemical adjustments. Seeing Jake work through his feelings naturally fascinated her. I am sorry for your loss, she said awkwardly. Jake smiled sadly. Thanks. It taught me that real love has to be built on understanding and acceptance. You can't love someone while trying to change them. That afternoon, Zara found herself thinking about Jake's words while walking through the station's small recreational area. She passed human families eating together, couples holding hands, children playing games with their friends. The casual affection they showed each other was foreign to her experience but somehow appealing. She paused at the observation window that looked out into space. Her homeworld was somewhere beyond those distant stars, a cold and logical place where efficiency mattered more than happiness. For the first time in her life, she wondered if her people had sacrificed something important in their pursuit of perfection. Beautiful view, isn't it? Zara turned to see Jake approaching with 2 cups of the hot beverage humans called coffee. He offered one to her. "I do not require stimulants," she said automatically. "It's not about need, it's about sharing a moment." Jake held the cup toward her again. "Besides, you've been looking tense lately." Zara accepted the cup, surprised by the warmth that spread through her fingers. She had never considered that humans used simple rituals like sharing drinks to create emotional connections. "Your repairs are progressing well," she said, searching for safe conversation. "Should be done in another week," Jake confirmed. "Your ship will be better than new when I'm finished." The thought of leaving should have pleased Zara. Instead, she felt something that might have been disappointment. "And then I returned to my duties." "What kind of duties?" Jake asked with genuine interest. "I transport cargo and passengers between Zephyrian colonies. It is not glamorous work, but it provides adequate compensation. Do you enjoy it?" The question surprised Zara. Enjoyment was not a factor Zephyrians considered when choosing careers. They selected paths based on aptitude and societal need. "Enjoyment is irrelevant. I perform my function adequately." Jake studied her face carefully. "But what would you do if you could choose anything?" Zara had never been asked such a question. She found herself thinking about the times she felt most alive during her travels. "I suppose I enjoy discovering new worlds, seeing different forms of life and learning how other species solve problems. That sounds like the soul of an explorer, not just a cargo hauler." "My people do not believe in souls. Maybe they should," Jake said quietly. That evening, Jake invited Zara to join him for dinner in the station's small cafeteria. She accepted, telling herself it was merely to gather more information about human customs. But as they sat across from each other sharing simple food, she realized she was enjoying his company more than she had enjoyed anything in years. "Tell me about your homeworld," Jake said between bites of synthetic protein. "Zephyr Prime is a highly organized society. Our cities are built for maximum efficiency. Climate is controlled, resources are distributed according to need, and all citizens perform assigned roles." "Sounds perfect," Jake said, but his tone suggested otherwise. "It is perfectly logical," Zara agreed. "Crime is virtually non-existent. Waste is eliminated. Everyone's basic needs are met." "But are people happy?" Zara paused with her utensil halfway to her mouth. "Happiness is not measured. Satisfaction with one's role is sufficient." "That's not the same thing," Jake said gently. "What do you mean?" Jake leaned forward slightly. "Being satisfied is just accepting what you have. Being happy means your life has joy and meaning beyond just existing." Zara set down her utensil and looked at Jake carefully. "And you believe you have found this happiness?" "I'm working on it," Jake admitted with a smile. "Some days are better than others. But talking with you these past few days has definitely been a good part." Zara felt warmth spread through her chest in a way that had nothing to do with the hot beverage. "You find our conversations pleasant." "More than pleasant. You're intelligent and curious about everything. You ask questions that make me think differently about things I took for granted." "I have never had anyone describe me that way," Zara said softly. "How do your people usually describe you?" Zara hesitated before answering. "Overly emotional for a Zephyrian. Too curious about irrelevant subjects. Insufficiently focused on proper advancement." Jake's expression grew serious. "They're wrong. Those aren't flaws, they're what make you special." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Zara stared into Jake's brown eyes and felt something shift inside her. The cold logic that had guided her entire life seemed less important than the warmth she felt in this human's presence. "I should return to my quarters," she said finally, though she made no move to leave. "Of course," Jake said, but he seemed reluctant to end the evening too. As they walked together through the quiet station corridors, Zara found herself wondering what it would be like to stay on this small outpost instead of returning to her prescribed life among the Zephyrians. The thought should have horrified her. Instead, it felt like the first truly honest desire she had ever experienced. The second week brought unexpected complications. Jake discovered additional damage to Zara's ship that would require specialized parts not available on the station. The delay would extend her stay by at least another 10 days. Zara received the news with outward calm, but inside she felt conflicting emotions. The logical part of her mind was frustrated by the continued delay. However, another part that she was only beginning to acknowledge felt pleased at the prospect of more time with Jake. I've sent requests to 3 different supply stations, Jake explained while showing her the damaged component. Someone should have the parts we need, but shipping time will be at least a week. This delay will have serious consequences for my career, Zara said, though her tone lacked the anger Jake might have expected. I'm really sorry. If there was any way to speed things up, I'd do it. Zara looked at Jake's concerned expression and felt something warm stir in her chest. I understand. The situation is beyond your control. You have been more helpful than I had any right to expect. Jake's face brightened at her words. Thanks for being so understanding. Most people would be furious by now. I am not most people, Zara replied, then paused as she realized the truth of that statement. She was indeed different from both humans and Zephyrians, something she had never fully acknowledged before. With the extended delay, Zara found herself becoming more involved in daily life aboard the station. She helped Jake with routine maintenance tasks, learning about human engineering methods. She discovered that working alongside him was more enjoyable than any activity she had experienced on her homeworld. You're a natural at this, Jake said, as Zara successfully completed a complex circuit repair. Ever think about changing careers? Zephyrians do not change careers. We are assigned roles based on our abilities and serve in them for life. That seems limiting. It ensures social stability and prevents the chaos that comes from individuals pursuing personal desires. Jake paused in his work to look at her. But what if your personal desires could benefit others too? What if following your heart led you to do something that made the galaxy a better place? Zara had no answer for that question. It challenged the fundamental beliefs her society was built upon. That evening, they sat together in the observation lounge watching the stars. Other station personnel had grown accustomed to seeing the odd pair together, and no longer stared when they passed. Jake, Zara said suddenly, may I ask you something about human customs? Sure, anything. When humans form permanent pair bonds, what is the process? Jake nearly choked on his drink. You mean marriage? I believe that is the correct term. Well, usually people meet and get to know each other over time. They date, which means spending time together and sharing experiences. If they fall in love and decide they're compatible, one person proposes marriage to the other. Proposes asks them to marry, usually with some kind of ceremony or romantic gesture. Zara processed this information carefully, and both parties must agree to this arrangement. Definitely. Marriage only works if both people choose it freely. I see? Zara was quiet for several minutes, staring out at the stars while Jake watched her curiously. Can I ask why you're interested in human marriage customs? Jake finally said. Zara turned to face him directly. Because I wish to propose to you. The silence that followed was so complete that Zara could hear her own dual heartbeats echoing in her ears. Jake stared at her with an expression she could not interpret. Zara, he said slowly, did you just ask me to marry you? I believe so, yes. Though I may have done it incorrectly since I am unfamiliar with proper procedures. Jake continued staring at her for another long moment. Then, to Zara's confusion, he began laughing. Are you mocking my proposal? She asked stiffly, her old defensive reactions kicking in. No, Jake said quickly, reaching across to take her hand. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because this is the most wonderfully direct proposal anyone has ever made. Is that good or bad? It's perfect, Jake said, his laughter subsiding into a warm smile. It's so perfectly you. But you have not answered my question. Jake squeezed her hand gently. Zara, we've known each other for less than 2 weeks. Most humans would say that's too soon to make such a big decision. Zara felt her heart sink. So you decline. I didn't say that either. The hope that flared in Zara's chest was almost painful. Then what are you saying? I'm saying that what I feel for you is unlike anything I've experienced before. You're brilliant and brave and honest in ways that make me want to be a better person. But marriage is a huge commitment. Among my people, mates are chosen for life. We do not enter such bonds lightly. What made you choose me? Jake asked softly. Zara had to think carefully about her answer. You showed me kindness when you gained nothing from it. You work to help others without expecting reward. You speak of love and family as if they were treasures rather than burdens. You make me feel emotions I was taught to suppress, and instead of frightening me, they make me feel more alive than I ever have. Jake's eyes grew bright with moisture. Those might be the most beautiful words anyone has ever said to me. Is that a yes? Jake laughed again, but this time it was pure joy. Ask me again. Will you marry me, Jake of the human colony? Yes, Jake said without hesitation. Yes, I will marry you, Zara of Zephyr Prime. The kiss that followed was Zara's first, and it awakened sensations she had not known were possible. When they finally separated, both were breathing heavily. I should warn you, Jake said with a smile. Marrying me means you'll be stuck with a simple repair technician who has more enthusiasm than wealth. And marrying me means you will be bonded to an alien who has been declared emotionally defective by her own people. I can't think of anyone I'd rather be emotionally defective with, Jake said, pulling her close again. As they held each other in the quiet observation lounge, Zara realized that her engine failure had not been a disaster after all. It had been the beginning of the most logical decision she had ever made, even though it was based entirely on the emotions her people claimed were worthless. For the first time in her life, Zara understood that some things were too important to be decided by logic alone. Love required courage, and she had found both in the arms of a human repair technician who saw value in what others called weakness. Tomorrow they would begin planning their future together. Tonight, they simply held each other and watched the stars that had brought them together across the vast distance of space. The morning after their engagement brought practical concerns that neither Jake nor Zara had fully considered. They sat together in the small cafeteria, sharing breakfast while trying to work through the complications their decision would create. I need to contact my family, Jake said, stirring his coffee thoughtfully. My mom Linda is going to have a lot of questions. What kind of questions? Zara asked, though she suspected she already knew. The usual ones. How long have we known each other? Are we sure this is right? What are our plans for the future? Jake smiled at her worried expression. Don't worry. Once they meet you, they'll understand. Zara was less optimistic. And I must inform my people, though their reaction will likely be far worse than questioning. How much worse? Zara set down her utensil and looked directly at Jake. Zephyrians who form emotional attachments to alien species are considered mentally ill. They face exile from our society and permanent ban from returning home. Jake's expression grew serious. Zara, you could lose everything because of me. I could lose everything because of my choice, she corrected. You are not responsible for my decisions. But I am responsible for making sure you understand what you're giving up. Your career, your home, your people. My people never accepted me as I am, Zara said firmly. My career provides income but no satisfaction. As for my home, it is a cold place where emotions are seen as sickness. Jake reached across the table to take her hand. But it's still all you've ever known. Are you sure you're ready to leave it all behind? Zara intertwined her fingers with his. The question is not whether I am ready to leave my old life. The question is whether I am brave enough to build a new one. That afternoon, Jake made the difficult call to his family on Earth. Zara sat beside him as his mother's face appeared on the communication screen. Linda was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and graying hair. Jake, sweetheart, it's so good to see you, Linda said warmly. Then she noticed Zara, and her expression became curious rather than hostile. Mom, I have someone I want you to meet. This is Zara. Hello, Mrs. Zara began formally. Call me Linda, dear, Jake's mother said with a smile. Jake, she's beautiful, but I have to ask, is she alien? Yes, she is, and Mom, we're engaged. The silence that followed lasted several uncomfortable seconds. Then Linda's face broke into a wide grin. Well, it's about time you found someone special. When do I get to meet her properly? Jake's relief was visible. We're still working out the details, but hopefully soon. After the call ended, Zara looked at Jake with amazement. Your mother accepted our relationship without question. She's been worried about me being lonely for years. I think she's just happy I found someone who makes me smile like this. That evening came Zara's more difficult task. She activated the long-range communication system to contact Zephyr Prime. The face that appeared on screen belonged to Commander Vex, her immediate superior. His silver eyes showed no emotion as he studied her through the transmission. Captain Zara, you were expected to return 5 days ago. Explain your delay. My ship experienced engine failure. Repairs are nearly complete. Nearly your report indicated repairs would be finished 3 days ago. Zara felt Jake's supportive presence beside her, though he remained out of view of the camera. Additional complications arose. However, that is not the primary reason for this communication. Commander Vex's expression did not change, but Zara detected a slight narrowing of his eyes. Continue. I wish to inform you that I have formed a permanent pair bond with a human male. I understand this will result in my removal from active duty and exile from Zephyrian society. The silence that followed was longer and more uncomfortable than the one during Jake's family call. When Commander Vex finally spoke, his voice was cold with disgust. You have contracted emotional contamination. Report immediately to the nearest medical facility for corrective treatment. I do not require treatment. My emotional state is a deliberate choice. Impossible. Zephyrians do not choose irrationality. Zara straightened in her chair, drawing on reserves of courage she had not known she possessed. Then perhaps I was never truly Zephyrian to begin with. Commander Vex's face flushed with anger, the first genuine emotion Zara had ever seen him display. You are hereby stripped of rank and commission. Your citizenship is revoked. You are forbidden from entering Zephyrian space or contacting any citizen of our worlds. I understand. Your behavior is an insult to our entire civilization. My behavior is an expression of who I really am, Zara replied calmly. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Zara staring at a blank screen. She felt Jake's arms wrap around her from behind. I'm sorry, he whispered against her ear. I am not, Zara said, surprising herself with how true those words felt. For the first time in my life, I spoke my honest thoughts to a superior. It was liberating. No regrets. Zara turned in his arms to face him. My only regret is that I waited so long to discover what happiness feels like. Over the following days, they began making concrete plans for their future together. Jake's contract with the mining station would expire in 6 months. They could travel together after that, perhaps finding work on one of the independent trading stations that welcomed mixed crews. I've been thinking about what you said about exploring new worlds, Jake said while putting finishing touches on her repaired engine. There are survey companies that hire teams to investigate potential colony sites. That sounds fascinating, Zara said, genuinely excited by the possibility. The pay isn't great, but we'd be traveling to places no one has ever seen before. I care nothing for wealth if I can spend my life discovering wonders alongside you. Jake emerged from the engine compartment grinning. That's officially the most romantic thing anyone has ever said to me. I am still learning how to express these new emotions properly. You're doing just fine. That evening, they celebrated the completion of her ship's repairs with a quiet dinner in Jake's quarters. Zara marveled at how comfortable she felt in the small space he called home. His few possessions spoke of a man who valued experiences over objects. I should test the engine tomorrow, Zara said, though the thought of leaving the station filled her with reluctance. About that, Jake said nervously. I have a confession to make. What kind of confession? Your ship could have been ready 3 days ago. I may have found a few extra problems that needed fixing. Zara stared at him in shock. You deliberately delayed my repairs. I wasn't ready to say goodbye, Jake admitted. I know it was wrong, but I needed more time to work up the courage to tell you how I felt. Zara was quiet for several moments, processing this information. Then she began to laugh. You find my deception amusing? Jake asked uncertainly. I find it perfectly human, Zara said, still smiling. Logical, efficient, and utterly motivated by emotion. Are you angry? I am grateful. Without your deception, I might never have found the courage to propose. Jake pulled her close and kissed her forehead. So we're both guilty of letting our hearts override our better judgment. I am beginning to think that is what love truly means, Zara replied. As they held each other in the quiet of Jake's quarters, both knew their real journey was just beginning. There would be challenges ahead, bureaucratic complications, and the need to build a life that bridged two very different worlds. But they would face those challenges together, and that made anything seem possible. 3 months later, Zara stood in the small chapel aboard Unity Station, wearing a simple white dress that Linda had helped her choose during their first meeting on Earth. The ceremony was small but perfect, attended by Jake's family and the crew of Mining Station Beta 7, who had become like family to both of them. Captain Martinez, who had performed marriages for dozens of couples during his long career, smiled as he looked at the unusual pair before him. I've never officiated an interspecies wedding before, but love is universal in any language. Jake wore his best uniform, the same one he had been wearing the day Zara first met him. She thought he looked more handsome than any Zephyrian male she had ever encountered. Do you, Zara, formerly of Zephyr Prime, take Jake to be your husband, in accordance with both human and universal customs? I do, Zara said clearly, her voice carrying across the small chapel without tremor. Do you, Jake, take Zara to be your wife, to love and support her regardless of what challenges you may face together? I absolutely do, Jake replied, his eyes bright with joy. Then by the authority vested in me by the Interstellar Alliance, I pronounce you married partners for life. The kiss that sealed their union was witnessed by beings from 4 different worlds, all of whom applauded enthusiastically. Zara felt her dual heart synchronize with Jake's single heart, a sensation that still amazed her after months of experiencing human emotions. The reception was held in the station's main recreational area, which had been decorated with flowers from Earth and luminous crystals from Jake's sister Amy's collection. The food was a mixture of human and alien cuisines that somehow worked together perfectly. I can't believe my little brother married a 7-foot-tall alien warrior princess, Amy said while dancing with her new sister-in-law. I am not a princess, Zara protested with a smile. I am merely a former cargo pilot. To Jake, you're definitely a princess, Amy replied. I haven't seen him this happy since we were kids. Later that evening, as the celebration wound down, Zara and Jake stepped onto the observation deck to look at the stars. In the distance, Zara's ship was docked alongside Jake's new vessel, a small but sturdy exploration craft they had purchased with their combined savings. Any second thoughts? Jake asked, wrapping his arms around his wife's waist. About marrying, you never, Zara said firmly. About giving up my old life, not even slightly. And our new adventure? Zara leaned back against his chest and smiled. I received confirmation today. The Frontier Survey Company has accepted our application. We leave next week for the Andromeda sector. Unknown worlds, alien civilizations, possible dangers around every corner, Jake mused. Sounds perfect. Are you nervous? Excited? Jake corrected. For the first time in my life, I get to explore the galaxy with someone I love. Over the past months, their relationship had deepened in ways that surprised both of them. Zara had learned to express emotions she had never been allowed to feel, while Jake had discovered a sense of purpose he had never experienced before. Together, they were stronger and more capable than either had been alone. I received another message from Commander Vex, Zara said quietly. Jake tensed. What did he want? To inform me that 3 other Zephyrians have requested permission to form bonds with alien partners. Apparently, our story has become known throughout the colony worlds. How does that make you feel? Zara turned in his arms to face him. Proud. If my choice helps others find the courage to follow their hearts, then losing my citizenship was worthwhile. You're amazing, Jake said, kissing her forehead. I am learning to be myself. With your help. The next morning brought their final preparations for departure. Their new ship, which they had named Harmony, was loaded with supplies for a 6-month survey mission. They would be mapping star systems that had never been explored, cataloging new forms of life, and reporting on potential colony sites. Everything ready? Jake asked as he completed his final systems check. All cargo secured, navigation programmed, and life support optimized, Zara reported from the pilot's seat. Then let's go see what's out there. As Harmony departed from Unity Station, Zara felt a sense of completion she had never experienced before. She was exactly where she belonged, doing work that challenged and fulfilled her, alongside the person she loved most in the universe. Jake, she said as they entered hyperspace, I have something to tell you. What's that? I am pregnant. Jake's hands froze on the controls. You're what? Pregnant? With twins, according to the medical scanner. Apparently, human Zephyrian genetics are more compatible than either of our peoples realized. For a moment, Jake said nothing. Then he began laughing with pure joy. We're going to be parents. In approximately 7 months, yes. Jake unbuckled from his seat and pulled Zara into his arms, spinning her around the small cockpit. This is incredible. How long have you known? Only since yesterday. I wanted to wait until we were alone to tell you. Twins, Jake said wonderingly. Boy, girl, or do you know yet? One of each, according to the scans. They will be the first human Zephyrian hybrids ever born. Our kids are going to be historic, Jake said with a grin. They are going to be loved, Zara corrected. Everything else is secondary. As their ship traveled toward unknown stars, Jake and Zara began planning for a future neither had imagined possible months before. They would raise their children among the stars, teaching them about both cultures while allowing them to choose their own paths. What do you think they'll be like? Jake asked as they watched a nebula pass by their viewport. Curious like their father, logical like their mother, and hopefully brave enough to follow their hearts wherever they lead, just like their parents. 6 months later, as Harmony completed its survey mission, the ship's crew had grown by 2. Little Emma and Marcus were healthy, intelligent babies who showed traits from both parents. Emma had inherited Jake's brown eyes and easy laugh, while Marcus displayed Zara's silver gaze and thoughtful nature. The survey mission had been successful beyond all expectations. They had discovered 12 new worlds suitable for colonization, made first contact with 2 peaceful alien species, and compiled enough data to keep xenobiologists busy for decades. More importantly, they had proven that love could indeed bridge any gap, even those between species from different worlds. As they docked at their new home base on Frontier Station, Zara reflected on how dramatically her life had changed. A year ago, she had been a lonely cargo pilot going through the motions of an empty existence. Now she was a wife, mother, and pioneer helping to expand the boundaries of known space. Ready for our next adventure? Jake asked as he carried Marcus toward their new quarters. With you, Zara said, adjusting Emma's blanket. I am ready for anything. Their story had begun with a broken engine and a joke of a proposal. It had become a love that would inspire other interspecies couples throughout the galaxy for generations to come, proving that some things were indeed too important to be decided by logic alone.